My phone lit up with a text from my lawyer. Call me immediately. I called and he told me the terrible truth about my son. The login changes, the auto pay approvals I never authorized, the money quietly leaking from my account. I didn't yell at him. I smiled, opened my banking app, canceled all the recurring transfers. He still thought I was being soft, as usual. A week later, his inbox had 24 missed calls. I had a plan based on documentation and patience. They'll regret turning kindness into obligation. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. The smell of wet wood after rain drifts in from the porch. Warm light spills across the oak table where I always keep a blue file clip. Every quarter I slide under it, the papers people call a life. Bills, statements, tax receipts. Tonight I tear open a thin envelope with the bank's logo. A red stamp slashes across the page. Late fee notice. I'm calmer than I expected. My fingertips do what they've learned. Smooth the edges flat. Numbers don't shout. They just stand there quiet, waiting for me to reconcile them. I pull the file closer and flip back a month, then another. The draft date has been changed. A mystery debit repeats with a steady tick that's lived in this kitchen for years. My phone buzzes. A text from Michael. Dad, wire me some money tonight. Urgent. I stare at the screen. Some words suddenly weigh more than they should. I set the reply aside and open my laptop. Log into the bank. The last change to the auto pay limit doesn't have my name on it. I don't trust hunches. I trust tracks. I call customer service. The rep's voice is even, courteous. I read out each detail, each account number, each letter on the memo line. On the other end, keys clack. She pauses, then reads me an internal log. Date the limit changed, channel used. A note that says automatic update request. I ask for 6 months of statements, a freeze on all scheduled payments, and a fraud watch. Stop by the branch in the morning with your originals, she says. We'll have everything ready. I thank her, take notes, and close the notebook. Another text from Michael pops up. Short, breathless, no punctuation. I call him back. His voice is rushed, with a hint of irritation swallowed down. Can you transfer it tonight, Dad? I get hit with a big penalty tomorrow. Paperwork, son. It's family, Dad. Send it first. I'll explain after. In the warm light, I stand to pour water. The rain on the roof is thinning. My voice is quieter than the faucet. From now on, my money follows paperwork, not feelings. A small silence on the line. Then he hangs up. I put the phone on the table and draw a long breath. Part of me wants to flare, to demand answers, to roar at the foul taste of being used. The other part, the part I need, pulls up a chair, reopens the late fee, and starts penciling marks beside every number that needs reconciling. I text my attorney, Daniel Rodriguez. Need to talk tonight. Irregularities in account. He calls almost immediately. His voice is steady. Spare. Don't argue with anyone. Gather everything. Statements, tax bills, relevant texts. Stay calm. Tomorrow go to the branch. Ask them to print confirmations on recent changes and lock down what needs locking down. I'll send a checklist. You think? We don't think. We let the numbers talk. Tonight, don't send a cent. We hang up. I open the safe, take out the old power of attorney I signed years ago, and clip it with the late fee in my notebook. Outside, the rain has stopped, leaving the smell of damp earth and pine. Inside, the kitchen light stays steady like a breath. Lauren calls. Her voice is soft, sweet, like when she first joined the family. Dad, I know tonight's a crunch, but for the family, could you help Michael just this once? We'll sort it out. Send me every document tied to the debt you need paid. I'm not refusing to help. I'm requiring paper. Do we really need that much red tape in a family? Precisely because it's family, we need clarity. I don't argue. I hang up, open the banking app, and terminate every auto pay connected to that account. A confirmation email lands in my inbox. I save it and rename the file the way an engineer would. The screen glow flickers on the window glass, where rain still beads into small rings. Night settles. I brew a pot of tea and pull the chair to the window. The alley outside lies blank like a page just turned. I think of all the times I kept the peace, paying a bill just this once, carrying a loan in my name, signing a power of attorney. They're single drops until the glass is full and someone keeps pouring. I set the teapot on a coaster and hear a tiny click, just loud enough to tell myself, it's time to change the habit. The phone buzzes again. This time the message is longer, the tone sharper. I read it, quietly screenshot it, file it with tonight's folder. No reply. A father's self-respect is often mistaken for softness. Silence gets mistaken for consent. I look up at the blue file clip in the center of the table, an unmistakable border. It used to keep my child safe when he needed it. Starting tonight, it keeps my clarity safe. I called Daniel again to confirm I've killed the scheduled transfers and that I'll request full printed statements. He adds, in the morning, ask for Benjamin Parker at the branch. Have your property tax receipts and deed handy. Don't argue with anyone. Let process do the work. You want me to talk to Michael tonight? No. Let him measure your silence. It will make him impatient. Impatient people leave tracks. I nod even though he can't see it. After we hang up, I write one line under the POA clip. Revocation, priority. My script tilts slightly right, as if the sentence is pulling itself forward. I clear the table. The late fee goes in the document pouch. The POA and notebook go under the blue clip. I set everything neatly beside the car keys and ID. When each thing sits in its place, a place inside me opens up, bright and quiet. Out on the porch, the wind flips a few wet leaves with a papery rustle. I dim the lights, leave the warm pool over the dining table. It's rare this house feels exactly enough. Not too many words, not too few receipts. Only what's necessary. Before bed, I check the inbox once more. The auto pay cancellation sits there, tidy as a fresh seal. I hit backup and forward a copy to the shared vault Daniel set up. Then I shut the lid. That night, I don't dream. Or if I do, it's a plain one. Of a dry morning at the main branch. Me sitting across from Benjamin Parker, setting the blue file on the desk, and letting the numbers speak first. Tomorrow I'm taking that file to the bank, and they can hear the answer straight from the ledger. In the morning, I took the blue file clip to the main branch. The sky was clear. The bank's glass doors reflected thin clouds. I pulled a number, sat on the plastic chairs, set the file on my lap, and my palm still remembered the feel of last night's late fee notice. They called my name. A man with a badge reading Benjamin Parker invited me into a consultation room. Soft white lights, a bright wood desk. I opened the file and handed over my ID, notebook, and marked up statements. I stated what I wanted, no extra words. Place holds on all recurring transactions. Change the password, change security questions. Print 6 months of statements and print confirmations of every recent change. Benjamin typed, voice low and steady. We'll start with account holder verification. I signed where indicated, match photo, match signature. On the screen, a list of changes appeared, including the note I'd heard yesterday. Benjamin read each item slowly, and I made bullet points in my notebook. He suggested stopping all scheduled transfers tied to authorized user cards. I nodded. We changed the password. I chose security questions tied to childhood, not the kind anyone could guess from social media. Benjamin printed 6 months of statements, clipped them, and set in front of me a sheet titled Account Hold Confirmation. I read every line, checked the name, the account, the effective time, then signed. The paper was thin but felt solid, like a door that had just been locked. Would you like us to monitor for unusual transactions over the next while? Benjamin asked. I would, I said, and I'll be adding a few other documents to the file. So, from the folder I took a property tax receipt, the kind of paper most people stuff in a drawer and forget. There was only one name on it. I laid it on the desk without another word. Benjamin looked, nodded. He scanned it, added it to the record, and noted that the property owner affirms independent authority. We ran one final review. He printed an internal summary of the session and clipped it to the confirmation. I gathered everything, thanked him, and stood. Before I stepped out, he spoke softly, like reminding me of a safety rule. Everything can stay fine as long as you let numbers go first and feelings follow. I smiled. It matched the promise I'd made to myself. Leaving the bank, I stopped at the cafe across the street. On the table, a fresh stack of statements, a highlighter, and the account hold confirmation. Noon sun passed through my coffee cup. I marked the odd charges, flagged each month with sticky notes, and renamed receipt photos with an engineer's care. Amid the bustle, the numbers started lining up. Near lunchtime, I went to a notary service. The room smelled of ink and paper. The notary examined the revocation of power of attorney I'd filled out, checked my IDs, and asked a few short questions about purpose. "Would you like additional witnesses?" she said. "No, just notarization," I answered. The seal dropped. Dark red ink pressed clean. I took a photo, named the file neatly, and thanked her. In the afternoon, I went to the title and escrow office. The receptionist received the packet, checked each page, and paused at the property description. "We'll need the parcel number to submit," she said. I slid over the tax receipt with the parcel number printed. She nodded, fed it through the copier, and returned with a filled notice of revocation. "We can file electronically with the county today," she explained. "The system usually records within 1 to 2 business days. When the clerk confirms, you'll get an email." She handed me an intake receipt and the recorder's contact. I asked about the chance of conflicting requests arriving during the wait. She said the process stamps receipt of filing. Once indexed, anything referencing the old POA is automatically held for additional review. I jotted that down and thanked her for the straight answer. Out in the lot, wind moved through the low trees. I set the file on the trunk and checked again. 6 months of statements, the hold confirmation, the internal session summary, the notarized revocation, the title and escrow submission receipt, a copy of the tax bill. Every page had its home. In my mind, the arrows started linking, from signed to received, from stopped to awaiting confirmation. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "What did you just do to the account? I can't access it." Another followed, longer, sharper, with words like family, embarrassing, you don't understand. I leaned against the car, read all of it, didn't reply. I screenshotted, filed it under today's folder, and sent copies to the shared vault Daniel Rodriguez had set up. I called Daniel once I was seated in the car. "Holds placed, security changed, revocation notarized and filed with title and escrow," I reported brief. "Good," he said. "Keep the rule, speak little, follow procedure. When the clerk's email arrives, forward it at once. This afternoon, I'll draft letters to the bank to flag the account and route official contact through me. The rest, let the other side reveal itself." "Should I answer, Michael?" I asked. "Not yet. Impatience will write the next chapter for you," Daniel said, calm as someone used to watching a blueprint appear line by line. I hung up, started the engine, and looked in the mirror. The stunned look from last night was gone. What remained was just enough fatigue to keep me from arrogance, and enough to keep me careful. I pulled onto the main road. It felt like I just slid a deadbolt into place. Once the bolt is seated, the door stopped swaying in the wind. Back home, I set the file on the dining table and took a wide photo, my own small war table. I created a new folder named by date and dragged in every photo, scan, and PDF. In my notebook, I wrote 2 plain words, neat as a chalk line, point of no return. Beside it, I drew a small box to await the county clerk's email. Late afternoon, the house was quiet. I brewed tea and cracked a window to let in the dry leaf smell. The phone blinked with missed calls. I turned it face down and left it. Some kinds of peace are built from paper, seals, and confirmation emails. They make no sound, but they weigh enough to keep a homeowner's back straight. When evening fell, I filed everything neatly back under the blue clip. The account hold confirmation sat on top, fresh as a small talisman. I switched off the living room lights and left a single warm circle on the table. The day had been long but seamless. No theatrics, just things in their place. Before bed, I checked email once more, glanced at the empty inbox, and closed it. I knew the message I was waiting for would come, and when it did, it would stand on my side. As I was washing dishes, the phone chimed. New mail. The subject line flashed, clerk and recorder. I dried my hands carefully before I opened it. In the afternoon, I returned to the main branch with the blue file. Through the glass, people seemed to be walking a little straighter than usual, as if everyone had something that had to be dealt with today. Benjamin Parker invited me into the consultation room. The smell of card plastic and fresh print made the space feel clean, leaving little room for emotions. Benjamin opened the file and reviewed what we'd done that morning. He stopped at a system line and looked up. There's an ACH transfer that still slipped through. The system processed it right before cutoff. We can place a stop payment and also open a Reg E dispute. You may still see the funds on hold until it's resolved. I nodded. Do both, and note the exact timestamps. He printed the forms, pointed to 3 signature boxes, read the terms slowly, then stamped the confirmation. The ink was still damp, with that slightly acrid smell. Looking at the paper felt like tightening an important bolt the old house had neglected for years. As for detailed login logs, Benjamin continued, we can only provide a general view to customers. The deeper details require a written request from your attorney to our legal department. I'll have Daniel Rodriguez handle it, I said. Give me legal's email so I can forward it right away. He wrote it on a note and slid it over, then printed a list of additional requirements once an account is flagged. The bank needs proof of residence for the past 60 days and a recent source of funds letter. It's standard when an account is under supervision. I jotted that down. I'll bring a utility bill and a draft explanation letter tonight. The door eased open. Michael and Lauren were shown in. An appointment made earlier. The room's tone shifted. Benjamin pulled out chairs, suggesting we sit across from one another to facilitate discussion. I set the account hold confirmation and a copy of the revocation of POA on the table, beside the property tax receipt with a single name on it. By nearly 3, the conversation was stretched taut like a rope pulled too far. Dad, you're making us look bad, Michael began, trying to keep his voice down, though each word still tightened. This is a family matter. What's on the table is fact. The rest is attitude, I said, eyes on the numbers. If you have more to say it with documents. Lauren turned to Benjamin. Can't you see he's not well? We're just trying to protect him. Benjamin kept a neutral tone. Here we rely on client records and valid documentation. The account holder placed holds, changed security, and submitted a revocation of authority. The bank is recording requests according to a procedure. Michael edged his chair. A revocation isn't effective until the county indexes it. Correct, Benjamin said. But we've already flagged the profile, and any related transactions will be manually reviewed. Once the county confirms, we'll update the legal status of the authorization. My phone buzzed. A new email popped up from the clerk and recorder. I excused myself and opened it. The first line, deficiency notice. The filing was temporarily rejected for missing the recording cover sheet and the legal description, Exhibit A, and it required resubmission with compliant margins. I drew a breath. A cold line ran down my spine like weather turning to rain. Is something wrong? Benjamin asked. The county needs a cover sheet and the legal description. I'll refile today, I said. Could you print me a blank cover sheet so I can fill it out properly now? Benjamin nodded, printed the blank, and handed me a pen. I called the title and escrow office. The receptionist picked up, quick and clear. We can pull the legal description from the tax file and prior deed, but you'll need to sign and pay a small fee. Also, for the revocation to have full effect, you must show you've notified the former attorney in fact by certified mail. Can you stop by this afternoon? I'll come right after I leave the bank, I said, Please prepare Exhibit A and the certified mail instructions for the recipient, Michael Miller. Michael scowled. You're really going to make a big scene? I'm going to do it right, I said. Doing it right doesn't require a scene. Benjamin set another sheet on the table. This is the session summary. I'll note that the client requested detailed login logs to be supplemented by counsel's letter. Also, the bank has placed a stop payment on the pending ACH and opened a Reg E dispute. Add that I provided the property tax receipt in my name, I said, and that I requested monitoring of any logins from unfamiliar devices. Benjamin nodded, typed a few more lines, and printed. The room settled. Outside the glass, clouds drew toward the Spokane River, and the lights shifted from white to gray. Michael leaned back, exhaled, then suddenly pitched forward. If you keep being stubborn, we'll go to court. Nobody wants that. I want the court to see this, I replied, closing the blue file. Facts stacked in order. The meeting ended. Benjamin signed the summary, stamped it, and handed each of us a copy. I immediately forwarded the deficiency notice to Daniel Rodriguez with a short line. In under a minute, Daniel sent back a request template, proper format for the bank's legal department, seeking detailed login logs and preservation of electronic evidence. I forwarded it to the address Benjamin had given me. Leaving the bank, I went straight to title and escrow. The receptionist had Exhibit A printed with the full legal description and showed me where to sign. We checked margins, lines, and font. She scanned everything, attached the recording cover sheet, and e-filed it with the county. You'll receive a confirmation with the new filing number, she said, and here are the certified mail instructions. Keep the receipt in tracking to prove notice to the former agent. I headed straight to the post office, addressed the envelope, applied the label, and signed. The certified mail stamp hit the paper with a dry click. Satisfying, like a procedural nod. The receipt with the tracking number fit cleanly into my wallet. By late afternoon back home, I photographed the supplemental documents and dropped them into the day's folder. On the table were two stacks. On the left, what I'd completed. On the right, what was pending. I added a sheet atop the right-hand stack and wrote 3 lines. Reg E pending, county refile pending, certified mail tracking. Nightfall. My inbox blinked. I opened it to see a notice of an emergency hearing from the court. My name in the caption, Petitioner, Michael. My stomach went still for a beat, then returned to rhythm. I forwarded it to Daniel with one sentence. We'll bring the order to this. I cleared the table, turned off the kitchen light, and left the small lamp glowing in the corner. Outside the window, the city was quiet like a records room after hours. There, the truth sleeps but does not disappear. Flip on the light, pull the right tab, and it will stand up and speak. Daniel messaged a few minutes later, telling me to sleep early and meet him in the morning at his office to assemble exhibits for the hearing. I set the blue file on the table like placing a compass in the center of the house. In the evening, my dining table turned into a war desk. I laid out all the papers, arranged along a timeline. I put small labels on each stack: bank, county, title, tax, messages. Each sheet sat neatly under the desk lamp. That orderliness lowered the room's heartbeat, and mine with it. Daniel called on video. A small flash flickered off his frames. We need to lock the chain of evidence on one axis, numbers first, feelings later. I'm sending exhibit label templates, print 2 sets. In parallel, I want an independent capacity evaluation as soon as possible. I can do that. Good. Tomorrow morning, see Dr. Elena Reed. Don't discuss family conflict. Answer only within her scope. Decisive, concise. After the call, I checked my inbox. An email from Title and Escrow said they'd resubmitted the filing to the county with the legal description and cover sheet attached. The last line was simple. A file number will be issued when the clerk finishes indexing. A short sentence, but it loosened a screw that had been rattling in my head. Night deepened. I wrote tomorrow's to-do list in my notebook. Print exhibit labels. Bring old medical documents to verify identity. Send Daniel a copy of the results, if any. Before switching off the light, I looked at the kitchen glowing warm. Since Eleanor died, this table had been a hollow, then it became a workbench. Tonight, it was where letters got lined up for the truth. In the morning, I went to Dr. Eleanor Reed's clinic. Red brick building, green carpeted hall. The waiting room had landscape paintings and a small bookcase. Inside, upholstered chairs, a tea set, a window open to slanting sun. She greeted me with something not too familiar, but warm enough. Mr. Miller, today I'll start with simple questions, then get more specific. There are no perfect answers, only honesty. The assessment began as lightly as a conversation. She asked about my morning routine, how I budget monthly, how I manage paper and digital records. She recited a string of numbers and asked me to repeat it backward. She drew 4 shapes and had me rotate them in my head to compare. She gave a list of tasks and told me to sequence them by priority. I answered the way I handle construction drawings, step by step, on the same breath, proving nothing. Midway, she switched to quick, pointed questions. Can you recount last week by work milestones? No need for exact times? I told her about the bank meeting, the hold, the statements, the notarized revocation, the receipt at title and escrow. Suppose you could do only one thing before this morning, print exhibit labels or pick up bank reports. Which? I'd choose labels. Without labels, everything blurs. At the end, she capped her pen. I see no signs of cognitive decline. Your attention, working memory, and reasoning are intact. I'll finish my report today and send it to your attorney. If the court asks, I'll present the same. I thanked her. Opening the door, the sunlight touched my wrist. Cool and clean, like ink drying on white paper. I stopped by the print shop. The large printer thrummed. I plugged in a USB and opened the labels Daniel sent. The first run jammed. The tech lifted the lid and pulled out a creased sheet. I waited, inhaling slowly, not impatient. The second run was smooth. I affixed labels to each set. Each colored tab popped like a small rung. A for statements, B for county confirmation, C for tax receipts, D for the account hold confirmation, E for transcribed voicemail, F for the doctor's evaluation. I slid each stack into sleeves, punched holes, and filed them in a binder. The hole punch made a firm, final sound, like a door latch seating in its strike. Near noon back home, I played Benjamin Parker's voicemail on speaker. Hold timestamp, 3:15 p.m., customer present, proper ID presented. Note, unusual login monitoring enabled. I typed every word into a transcript file, attached the audio, named, saved, printed, and labeled it S7. The label felt smooth under my thumb, like a brick just freed from its mold. An email from the county arrived right after. 2 short lines I'd been waiting for. The filing was indexed with the document number. I printed it and clipped it to the top of the county stack. A piece slotted into place. In my head, a bridge now had enough girders. Only the deck pour remained. The phone rang. Title and escrow. The receptionist's voice was quick and clear. We just received notice of a property appraisal appointment tied to a credit line based on the old POA. Since you filed the revocation, we've posted a hold on the file, but the appraisal team needs your direct confirmation. I do not authorize any appraisal predicated on the old POA. Please send the appraiser's contact. I'll address it with their compliance unit now. She read off a number and email. I wrote it down and thanked her. Next call, the appraiser's compliance department. I'm the owner. I filed a revocation and have the county index number. I object to any appraisal action based on the prior authority. The manager's voice was steady. Email us the scan revocation, the index number, and the bank contact. We'll suspend immediately. Once the bank or counsel confirms, we'll reopen. I sent the email within a minute and CC'd Daniel. Early afternoon, Daniel texted, Dr. Reed's evaluation is in the mailbox. Clear and concise. I'm filing it with the hearing packet. I opened the PDF. Her language wasn't flowery. She scored, summarized, concluded. I printed, labeled, and placed it on top. The binder closed with a soft click. Text from Michael poured in. The usual themes: family, pride, looming due dates. A line hinted someone was putting ideas in my head. I didn't reply. I took screenshots, named the files by date. Everything went into a separate folder, the one for words that arrive without paperwork. I opened the window for a draft of dry leaves. On the table, the file sat there, neither too much nor too little. I brewed tea. With the first sip, I thought of Eleanor. Once I'd mixed up the order of the electric and water bills. She smiled, set her hand on the stack, and whispered, "Just sort by date. Whatever's tangled will loosen." Back then I thought it was a method. Now I know it was a principle. Late afternoon, my phone rang. Bank Legal, not the branch. The man's voice was clear, no circling. "We received your attorney's request for detailed login logs. Permitted. We do need you to confirm your usual devices and home IP so we can exclude valid access." I used the home computer, one phone, one tablet, no other devices. Cable internet, same modem. "Thank you. We'll deliver the data pack to your attorney tomorrow. Alerts are enabled for any new access." I noted that in my book. As the pen lifted, I felt I'd reached a boundary in this work. Things had shifted from private to semi-public. Feelings no longer fit. On the other side stand minutes and signatures. Near dusk, Daniel called, his voice lighter, like someone who just set a heavy stone. "We have the chain. County index done. Benjamin's voicemail time-stamped. Dr. Reed confirms capacity. The log record request is out. One last task for today." "What is it?" "Print one more exhibit set. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Arrive at court 15 minutes early. I want the other side to see your binder in front of them. Tidy, not a page askew. And I want you to read 3 lines aloud to me now. Your backbone in answers." "I'm ready." Line 1, "I rely on numbers and documents, not on statements without evidence." Line 2, "I am fully capable, and if needed, Dr. Reed can explain her methods and conclusions." Line 3, "I ask the court to prioritize procedural order because order is the only way to protect the whole family." I've written them. It was already dark outside. I cracked the window and listened to the leaves rub. The house was quieter than most nights. Before lights out, I gave the binder one last look. I wasn't praying for a neat ending. I only needed tomorrow, in its proper place, for the truth to speak in order. Daniel's text came just as I set the phone down. One more reminder of the hearing time in the morning and to sleep early. I zipped the document bag, heard the teeth mesh, then switched off the light. The blue clip sat on the chair beside me like a lawful charm I'd made with my own hands. I arrived at court a little early, just enough to see the hallway lights glint on the stone floor like a ribbon of cold water. Bitter coffee drifted from the vending machine. I stood at the doorway of the third-floor courtroom, binder of labeled exhibits in hand. Each section was lettered in big, clear words: statements, messages, photos, transfer timeline. Samuel Parker came off the elevator, navy tie, canvas bag with a mini projector and 2 USB drives. He nodded at me. "Steady, David?" "I'm steady," I said, exhaling slow and even. "All I need to do today is tell the truth." Outside the courtroom, Daniel and his wife Madison stood close together. Daniel exchanged polite smiles with a man in a gray suit. His attorney, I assumed. His eyes slid to me and held for a beat. No longer a son's look, just one party trying to take what belongs to the other. Madison squeezed his hand and whispered, but I heard it clearly, "We'll win. Dad will soften." I kept my eyes on the sign. "Silence your phones." I put mine on silent and squared my papers one last time. When the clerk called us in, I sat on the left, Daniel and Madison across from me. A few relatives took the gallery seats, whispering. My name floated back and forth like cheap gossip. Judge Wright entered, neat silver hair, a voice calm but final. She had us introduce ourselves. Daniel's lawyer stood and draped the case in long, soft words. Erratic behavior, intent to sell the family home, threat to the grandchildren's future. I listened and counted my breaths. Then Samuel rose. He kept to what can be checked. Your Honor, this is not about feelings. It's cash flow, transfer schedules, and written terms. We'll submit 6 binders, each clearly indexed. I looked at my hands. The fingers weren't so cold anymore. I knew what we had. I knew what I was ready to say if asked. The clerk asked us to load digital exhibits onto the court's machine. First snag, the USB wouldn't mount. XFAT, our system won't read it, the clerk said. Do you have hard copies? Samuel didn't blink. We do, Your Honor, he signaled. I pulled 2 thick printed sets from my bag, tabbed, color-labeled spines, and handed them to the clerk. The judge nodded. Printed is good. Proceed. The other side called Daniel first. His lawyer led him. Daniel said I'd been difficult, jealous of my son's success, had threatened to sell the house. He spoke like recitation. They showed a handful of family photos, old moments repurposed as stickers. I remembered the day we took them, the scorched edge of the roast, the laughter and the grocery slip, frozen shrimp, mixed veg. I paid for. They turned memory into props. I stayed quiet. Samuel began cross. Mr. Daniel, you say you and your wife have been carrying the family's debts? Yes. Do you have any writing, any family agreement that Mr. David must pay your mortgage? Daniel glanced at his lawyer. It was understood. So there is no writing, his jaw set. No. Samuel handed pages to the clerk. Exhibit B, pages 7 through 9. 2 years of transfers, voluntary support from Mr. David, not a commitment. Another flip. Exhibit C, whose name is on the mortgage? Mine, Daniel had to say. And in the obligation you call Mr. David's, what clause names him a payer? None. His voice tightened. He said he'd sell the house. That's cruel. Samuel kept even. Do you have any evidence he signed a listing or sale agreement? Not yet. So that's speculation. Daniel gripped the chair. Madison leaned back, working her breath. I looked at her eyes skipping around, hunting for an exit. The opposing lawyer changed tactics, projecting a text I'd sent Daniel. Starting next month, I'll stop contributing the monthly top-up. He read it loud for the room. Then, Your Honor, this shows Mr. David cut them off abruptly, risking default for a young family. Samuel asked to respond. Exhibit D, household cash flow for Daniel's family. Columns of numbers, car upgrade, beach vacation, new home electronics. Samuel spoke slowly. While Mr. David supported them, discretionary spending rose. When he stopped, they called it a crisis. He tapped a column. Mortgage line remains steady. No late fees. Judge Wright studied the pages. She turned to their counsel. Where's the writing? The simple question landed like a stone. He cleared his throat and veered. He called Madison. She walked up, thin heels touching the floor. She said I had looked down on a daughter-in-law, disrespected a mother's role. Every line scented more with perfume than fact. Samuel asked one question. Ms. Madison, do you recall a transfer to your card on the 15th of last month? She hesitated. That was milk for the baby. Exhibit E, photo attachment of the receipt, downtown jewelry store. Color rushed to her face, her gaze went slack. She whispered, barely sound, we'll return it. Just then, snag number 2. The clerk said the courtroom display froze. No way to play the verification video from the previous night. The room sagged. Samuel looked at me. I understood. I didn't need a screen. I spoke, steady. Your Honor, I have an audio of the bank's interest deferral call confirming I paid during Daniel's unemployment and that it was temporary, voluntary support. The judge nodded. We'll hear it. The clerk added, phones must connect through our audio jack. We're missing the cable. Samuel reached in his bag and set a small adapter on the table. I have one. The clerk plugged it in. A little beep. The room held its breath. Audio came clear. Bank agent, my voice. Date, call ID. I asked about deferral. The agent said my help was voluntary, not binding, and the loan was in Daniel's name. The call ended with a thank you. The courtroom went quiet. Opposing counsel raised a hand. Is this recording admissible? Samuel answered at once. This is a two-party recorded service call with notice at the top. We submit the transcript and call ID. The judge nodded. Admitted. The clerk called a short recess. I stepped into the hall and leaned on the rail, looking down at the atrium. I thought about evenings Daniel and I changed a tire in the driveway. The old jacket he used to borrow. We used to be us. I shut my eyes a few seconds. When I opened them, Samuel was beside me. He didn't speak, just handed me a water bottle. I drank and felt my chest settle like a lake after a gust. When we resumed, Samuel called a neutral witness, my next-door neighbor. No family ties, just someone who says good morning when I'm in the yard. She described delivery guys dropping big boxes at my door, items later showing up in Daniel and Madison's photos online. New fridge, speakers, a massage chair. The judge asked simply, "Any reason you'd make this up?" She gave a tired smile. "I'm nearly 70. I like gardening. I've got no reason." A ripple of laughter. Daniel's eyes darkened for a beat. Then Samuel called me. I stood. My hand was still warm from the water bottle. He asked little and let me be clear. I described the support I'd given. I said I stopped when I realized I was teaching dependence, not spine. I didn't run them down. I didn't jab. I said only what happened, and only with words I could prove. Opposing counsel pressed. "Are you punishing your son for choosing a wife you dislike?" "I'm not punishing anyone," I said, meeting his eyes. "I'm setting my boundaries." He scoffed. "You don't think that's selfish?" "I think I've been generous for a very long time." Samuel asked for one last line. "Your Honor, may we end with Mr. David's core statement?" He turned to me. Slowly, I said, "I don't owe my son a future. I owe him an honest example." The sentence hung in the room. I saw Madison squeeze Daniel's shoulder. Their lawyer scribbled something fast. The judge looked down at the file, then back at me. She nodded. The other side lost patience. Daniel blurted unguarded. "He pretends to be decent. He promised forever and walked away." His voice went hard, revealing what he tried to hide. His lawyer frowned, too late. Samuel answered, "There's no writing anywhere that says forever. Only thank you texts." The judge set her pen down. "Enough." She had us sit. She summarized. "No document obligates Mr. David to pay any mortgage. Past support was voluntary. The other side's spending doesn't show an actual crisis, and the bank audio confirms the nature of the help." She paused, looked at us. "I'll issue a preliminary ruling on the plaintiff's request tomorrow morning." Then cleanly. "Meanwhile, no direct contact about money. All communication through counsel. And a personal note to you, Daniel. Don't call generosity an obligation." The gavel tapped. Recess. The doors opened. Cold air slid in. I packed the binder. Samuel touched my shoulder. "Good work." "Not over," I said. True, but she heard what mattered. The corridor stretched. Footsteps clicked. Daniel waited at the turn. Madison went ahead, then stopped and looked at me. "You can ruin our lives." "No," I said. "You do that yourselves with your choices." She turned away. Daniel stared a moment, lips tight. He wanted to speak, but didn't. I left the courthouse and went down the stone steps. The day was pale and dry, not bitter. I paused, looked up at the sky, and then called Samuel. "Tomorrow, what time?" "9, he said. "We'll have an answer." That night I spread the printouts on the kitchen table. Beside them, a pencil, a ruler, and a blank sheet I'd set aside. On it I wrote, "Post-hearing rules. 1. Any support, if any, must be in writing with start and end dates. 2. No paying for whims. 3. All talks about money go through counsel. 4. No one says filial piety to spend my money." I taped it to the fridge. I stepped back and looked. The kitchen was silent. So was I. Tomorrow morning, the judge would announce her decision. Tomorrow, the gavel would fall, and the name of the party responsible would be read clearly. I arrived at court a little early. The corridor was bright, the stone floor cold as a lake's surface. I set my document bag on the bench and pulled the zipper once more to be sure. Samuel Parker came up and gave a slight nod. No need to ask if I was all right. His calm felt like the final check mark on a blueprint. The clerk called us in. Everyone took their places. Judge Wright stepped out, black robe falling cleanly, voice even and clear. She reviewed the file before her, flipped a few pages, poised her pen over the caption, then looked down at us. Having considered the filings, testimony, and evidence, the court denies the plaintiff's request for guardianship or financial control over Mr. David Miller. She paused half a beat. The court finds that prior support was voluntary and not contractually binding. The court credits the independent report of Dr. Eleanor Reed regarding Mr. Miller's cognitive capacity. The court accepts the evidentiary chain documenting account holds, property tax records, and the county indexing confirmation. I heard her pen tap lightly on wood. The room went still. Wright continued, voice unchanged. To preserve the status quo, the court issues a temporary order, a freeze on any transfers from accounts in the name of, or under power of attorney from, Mr. David Miller to accounts controlled by Daniel Miller and Madison Miller, pending review. The bank shall coordinate with compliance to enable login alerts and provide detailed access logs to Mr. Miller's counsel pursuant to proper process. All monetary communications between the parties must go through counsel. Violations will be treated as contempt. She looked up, straight at us. The court also directs that the file be referred to the bank's financial fraud unit and, if necessary, to the appropriate authorities. I recommend the parties stop using family sentiment to label obligations that do not exist in contract. The gavel fell, dry, decisive. I exhaled, realizing I'd been holding my breath. Out in the corridor, the air felt colder. Samuel took the stamped copies, checked each page, and handed one to me. "Keep this on you," he said. "We go straight to the bank to implement the freeze with compliance. Then I'll file the no direct contact letter. By late afternoon, you'll have a draft family boundary letter to review." Daniel stood leaning on the rail ahead. His gaze slid over and settled on the paper in my hand. "You really want to do this?" It wasn't a question. I kept steady. "I want everyone safe from rash decisions, and I want the truth to have a place to stand." He started to reply, but Madison tugged his arm. I didn't look after them. At the bank, the compliance room smelled of fresh paper and strong coffee. Andrew Cooper shook our hands and scanned the court order. He read back the essentials, cross-checked accounts, authorized users, and online channels. "We'll flag the freeze at a system level and require manual review for any transfer matching key terms. New login alerts will go to your app with copies to counsel." Samuel submitted the demand for detailed access logs. Andrew nodded, opened a case in the system, entered the matter code, and set a delivery time for the data. "Please reconfirm your trusted devices." I listed my home computer, phone, and tablet. Any login outside that list will alert. During the freeze, if the other side files conflicting requests, we'll reference the court order first. We signed where needed. Andrew closed the folder and clipped a stamped copy into my packet. He added a simple line I'll remember. "Process doesn't protect feelings, but it does protect facts." Leaving the bank, Samuel made a quick call to the appraisal firm to confirm they'd received the county index number and the revocation. The voice on the other end acknowledged a hold. From there, I went straight to the post office and printed proof of delivery for the certified letter to Daniel, as title and escrow required. The barcode on the receipt felt like a fence newly set where it belongs. Early afternoon, I was home. The kitchen was its usual warm gold. I set the papers on the table and checked my inbox. The bank's email arrived first. Case opened with fraud team. A case number, a list of requested items, a response deadline. I created a new folder named for the case and dropped in every receipt, scan, and email. Samuel called. Good news on good news. I've got the first tranche of access logs. There's a foreign device login matching the time Daniel spoke with you at the bank 3 days ago. I'll send a timeline comparison. I sat, the chair legs clicking against the floor. Anything I need to do right now? Eat a proper lunch, he said. I'll send the boundary letter draft this afternoon. I set a plate, cut a slice of bread, added some fruit. Eating at home has never been a ritual, but today each motion felt like someone restoring a rhythm to his own life. I washed the plate, dried it, put it back in its place. The kitchen clarified itself. Late afternoon brought Samuel's email. Draft, family boundaries. 3 points, spare and firm. First, any financial support, if any, must be in writing with start and end dates and completion criteria. Second, no transfers by text or call. All communications go through counsel. Third, all access to my accounts is terminated permanently. Any unknown device will be reported. Below, Samuel appended the court order references, violation terms, and the addressee, Daniel's counsel. I read it 3 times, tweaked one word to match my voice, and clicked accept. That evening, I printed and signed a copy, filing it at the back of the binder. In the upper right corner of the first page, I wrote by hand, "Boundaries protect both sides." The line slanted just enough, like a nod. My phone lit up. A long text from Daniel. I didn't finish it. I forwarded it to Samuel with one short note. Please reply with the signed letter. I set the phone face down. For the first time in days, I let silence travel the whole house without rushing to fill it. Night came. I sat on the back steps. The air carried pine. In the dark, the fence posts lined up into a straight run. I thought about the word I'd used all day, boundary, not a wall. A white line on the road so everyone knows which lane is theirs. If someone drifts, the sign will light up. Next morning, another bank email. They confirmed the freeze on transfers matching the order. Login alerts were live. Overnight, an attempt from an unknown address had been blocked. I opened the detail panel, exactly the kind of description Samuel would want, and forwarded it at once. I spent the morning on one simple, necessary task. I wrote myself a letter, not a pleading, just a blank page headed non-negotiables. 1. Trust the process. 2. Standardize evidence. 3. Don't speak in anger. 4. Keep happiness outside of transfers. 5. If you help people stand up. Don't help them forget how. Near noon, I called someone I've owed a promise to for a long time. My grandchild, who loves to ask how drawings become bridges. I told him to come over this weekend. I had a small model set and a new story to tell. A soft cheer on the line, enough to remind me I still have work beyond paperwork, the work of keeping a home. By late day, Samuel sent the filings to court and bank with a compliance confirmation that the freeze was in place. He added one line outside the formalities. Phase 1 done. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we plan the civil side. I put the phone down. In the kitchen, the kettle reached its mark and ticked. I turned off the flame and poured the tea. The scent filled the room. On the fridge, the 4 lines I'd taped last night. I read them again, not to memorize, but to see I was living by them. I took the cup out to the porch. The sky deepened into blue. I wasn't waiting for an ending, only seeing the start. The white line was straight, the signals were lit, and I had enough in me to stay in my lane. If you enjoyed the story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts about it in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left.